Welcome to the first video in the series Spaghetti and Meatballs, the Permanent Weight Loss Solution. In this video, we are going to talk about the creative process, a force that you have within yourself. For this purpose, we are going to imagine that last night you ate spaghetti and meatballs. Before you sat down to eat the spaghetti and meatballs, someone had to fix it. Before someone fixed it, someone had to buy the supplies, and we are going to make the assumption that you were the one in charge of going to get the supplies. But before that, the whole process began with one simple thought, and the thought was, I want to make spaghetti and meatballs. With that thought in mind, you went to the supermarket. So I want to point out that the first thought is I want to get spaghetti and meatballs. And when you repeat the thought, you go to the supermarket and you find yourself that it's time to make a choice. In front of the meat section, you find the ribs, the pork chops, the roast, the steaks, the ground meats, the chicken, and the fish. What choice did you make? Well, if the thought is, I want to make spaghetti and meatballs, you will have chosen a ground beef or a ground meat. And the reason you chose the ground beef is because that is the only choice that fulfills the thought, I want to make spaghetti and meatballs. Then you went to the pasta section, and it came time to make a second choice. And you had the possibility of choosing the lasagna pasta, you had the spaghetti, you had the macaroni, the shells, the bow ties, the elbows, all of these shapes and different sizes that we have in pasta. Again, what choice did you make? The answer would be spaghetti. And the reason you chose the spaghetti is because the spaghetti is the only choice that will allow you to fulfill the thought, spaghetti and meatballs. So you went home, prepared it, and ate it. This really has nothing to do with food, but it's used as an example to teach you that the creative process goes on in your head whether you acknowledge it or not. And the steps of the creative process are, you begin with a thought, you repeat the thought, and repeating the thought allows you to make the right choice only, and soon you will end up exactly with what the thought requested. Now, this process has been taking place from time eternal. It has taken place yesterday, today, and it will continue to take place tomorrow. Let me give you a second example so you understand the process a little bit better. Before I became a physician, before I got the license to practice medicine, before even medical school, before college, before I finished high school, I began around age 5 or 6 having a thought. The thought was, I want to be a physician. And I repeated the thought, and repeated the thought, and repeated the thought. And repeating the thought allowed me to make the right choices. And when I continued to make the right choices, eventually I became a physician. Again, the process is identical. You have a thought, you repeat the thought, repeating the thought allows you to make the right choice, and making the right choice eventually will lead you exactly with what the thought requested. I want to add that at the beginning of the process, whether it is spaghetti and meatballs, you do not have the spaghetti and meatballs in front of you. You do, however, have an image in your head of what you want the spaghetti and meatball presentation to be like. That image is going to be extremely important, but having the spaghetti and meatballs is not a requirement. In the same way, when I was 5 and 6, and I was having the thought, I want to be a physician, I had the image that for my time was Marcus Welby, MD. And so I had that image in my head of what the doctor was going to look like. Another point that I want to make before we close this video is that the spaghetti and meatballs thought allows you to go in one direction in the supermarket. But if you were to say, I want to make potato soup, it will require that you will go in another direction. So when you begin having the initial thought, you are setting the pathway, the direction that your actions are going to lead you. And it's extremely important that you keep that in mind. Thank you.